Brisbane. What do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
Hello, my name is Vitaly Gimin, and today I will be reading to you from my book, The Science of Manifestation. The purpose of this book is to outline the basic principles behind the science of manifestation, or sometimes referred to as the law of attraction. This book is a compilation of my writings derived from years of experience as a scientist, as a business person, and a life coach. It is by no means a gospel. It is up to you to take what you need from it, as only you can decide what is true and what is false. At the same time, I strongly encourage not only to read this book, but also to follow the information in a way that you apply it in your own life, so that you can witness the real results the science of manifestation can produce for you. And here is a brief table of contents. The first chapter will cover the science of manifestation model. In the second chapter, the science of manifestation and alignment. The third chapter covers quantum manifestation and consciousness. Fourth chapter covers the missing link in the law of attraction. The fifth chapter, spiritual evolution, moving up your spiritual scale. The sixth is the science of manifestation and consciousness. And finally we'll conclude. Chapter 1. The Science of Manifestation. The process of manifestation can be easily remembered as AAAA, the 4 A's. Step 1. Aspiration, where we identify our deepest desires and clarify our intention. Step 2. Attention, that is maintaining consistent focus on what you desire. Step 3. Action, we do something every day. Step 4. Alignment, and that is checking for congruence with the spirit of the whole intent. True manifestation is the process by which we bring to life our deepest desires. Therefore, understanding the science of manifestation is critical for a fulfilling life. Over the last 15 years, I have studied the process of manifestation both from a spiritual and scientific perspective. In simple terms, manifestation occurs when the unmanifested potential is collapsed by consciousness into manifested reality. In other words, all that you desire already exists in the infinite realm of possibilities. So the moment you think of something you want, it's already there. Through conscious attention, intention, and action, we can bring this potential energy into manifestation to serve your needs. However, many of us find practical difficulties in this process of manifestation. It seems that we often ask but do not get what we want. This is because the science of manifestation is more intricate than the law of attraction leads us to believe. It is not enough just to visualize or even to feel into what you want. You need to commit to some action. And the more focused and aligned the action is, the quicker the result will come. Action and alignment are the two missing elements in the law of attraction. And yet they are the most critical to the success of the process. Alignment requires us to be in congruence with the overall spirit of our desire. It is to be in coherence with universal forces, allowing things to happen without resistance as opposed to pushing and pulling. Alignment happens when we operate from our highest self as opposed to our ego. We know when we are aligned, when the process of manifestation feels easeful and joyous. Chapter 2. The Science of Manifestation and Alignment. The alignment step of the science of manifestation is so critical that I thought I will clarify it further. But before we begin, we need to understand that most of the manifestation occurs in the invisible realm before it appears in visible reality. In a way, the visible part of manifestation is just the tip of the iceberg. Furthermore, some postulate that while the visible manifestation is local, that is, it exists in time and space, the invisible part of manifestation is non-local. It is beyond time and beyond space. The invisible exists in the infinite potential of the universe, a quantum field of possibilities. Another way of looking at this is that the visible manifestation is what shows up in the external world, while the invisible is part of the internal hidden world. In our culture, we tend to believe it when we see it, and yet most of the manifestation cannot be seen. That is why trusting the process is extremely helpful. This means we see it when we believe it. The alignment process is a critical part of the manifestation as it guides us and provides us with feedback, making sure we are on the right path. We need to be aligned. We need to be aligned between our beliefs and our actions, our emotions and our actions, our life purpose and desires, and our higher self. Which means that our external actions need to be congruent with our internal world, and most importantly, with our higher self. Only then can we experience being in the flow with the universe. Chapter 3: Quantum Manifestation and Consciousness. Quantum manifestation is based on a theory of a zero-point field which exists as the underlying substrate of all reality. All physical substances manifest from this field, starting from the smallest particles such as quanta, molecules, and complex living organisms. This being said, it is still regarded as a controversial theory in the mainstream scientific community. There are many scientists who do not believe there is any evidence for such field, and yet there are so many who do. The most difficult dilemma in quantum physics right now is explaining what is known as the double slit experiment. The experiment shows that somehow consciousness, observation of the photon particles, changes them into a wave function. In other words, consciousness affects their manifestation in the quantum world. Chapter 4: The Missing Link in Law of Attraction. The law of attraction has gained a lot of popularity since the release of the movie The Secret. It created a phenomenal exposure for this age-old wisdom. The Secret showed how by visualizing what we want to attract, we can materialize it. That is, bringing into our physical reality. Millions of people began to visualize their new car, their perfect soulmate, millions of dollars coming their way, and so on. However, they soon realized that it is not happening. Something is missing. While The Secret created a positive movement towards understanding that we have the power to manifest, and that power is within us, it also left a gap. What needed is a more complex and more complete explanation of how the law of manifestation works in reality. What was missing in The Secret are the two most critical steps of manifestation, that is, alignment and action. So let's review once again the full process of manifestation, the 4 A's. Step 1: aspiration. We identify our deepest desire and clarify our intention. Step 2: attention. We maintain consistent focus on it and visualize it and journal it. Step 3 is the alignment. We need to check for vibrational alignment with our aspiration. And then step 4, we need to do some action every day. Simply visualizing and hoping that the object of our attraction will fall into our lap will not manifest what you desire. So if you are feeling frustrated because the object of your desire is not coming your way, you need to fully engage in aligned action. If you look at any successful person who has manifested their true passion, you will see that they have all engaged fully into action. In other words, you cannot get something for nothing. You need to put some work into it. At the same time, action without alignment can be very inefficient. It is like running in all directions at once. Efficient action is when our whole body, mind and spirit is aligned with our intention. Prior to such alignment, there is a gap between our vibrational frequency and that of our desire. When alignment occurs, the gap is closed and we are synchronized with our intention. Alignment of the body, mind and spirit can also be explained in terms of, number 1, thought alignment, which involves observing negative thoughts and self-correcting or reframing into positive thoughts. Number 2, emotional alignment, moving up the emotional scale from low vibration to high vibration. Number 3, spiritual alignment, and that is alignment with your higher self. There is much more to be said about aligning your thoughts, emotions, and spiritual alignment. However, for the moment, let's assume that you are engaged in this process. A question that is often asked is, do I need to be fully aligned before I can engage in action? Well, the answer is no. The goal is not to reach some perfect alignment, but to observe and consciously correct while engaging in action. A great example of alignment is the process of coherence found in physics. Coherence occurs when light waves are in phase with each other. Lasers, for example, emit almost perfectly coherent light. All the photons emitted by the laser have the same frequency and are in phase. Since quantum states can be described by a wave equation, coherence can hold for quantum states in general. Since we are made of quantum particles, we can postulate that there is a coherence between the alignment process in the law of attraction and coherence principle in the quantums of physics. In other words, just like an ordinary light that is coherent, we can become a powerful laser. We have the power to manifest our intention when we are truly aligned. Up to now in this article we have used the word attraction and manifestation interchangeably. However, the two carry a very different assumption. Attraction assumes that there are two objects, one is you and the other separate from you. According to many ancient traditions, this assumption is fundamentally false. All reality is interconnected. Or to go even further, there is one seamless, unified energy field. The so-called objects that you want to attract are simply different manifestation of the oneness, the field. Therefore, a better way of thinking about this process is by using the word manifestation. Manifestation takes place from within you, which is not separate from anything else. You are simply aligning your frequency with another projection of the unified field. This applies to all aspects of manifestation. For example, if you want to manifest a soulmate, he or she is not separate from you, they exist within the same field. Once you vibrate the same frequency that the person you're attracting are, it will come into your reality. The same goes for attracting financial abundance. Money is energy, and once our frequency matches it and we take action, money comes into our lives. Improving our health can also be seen in terms of vibrational alignment. A disease is often a symptom of misalignment of the body, mind, and spirit. The most common cause of disease is stress. Stress drains our energy resources, forcing our body into low vibration. Aligning our thoughts, emotion, and spirit increases the rate of vibration and supports rapid healing. Chapter 5. Spiritual Evolution, Moving Up Your Spiritual Scale. In her teachings on the law of attraction, Abraham Hicks reinforces the importance of moving up emotional scale. In this article, we should look at an equally important process of moving up your spiritual scale, or what we call spiritual evolution. So let's back up a little and examine how this all works. As creators, we continuously aspire to reach new grounds, always expanding with new aspirations to improve ourselves and our environment. We wish to create more harmony and unity within ourselves and with others. And yes, also to acquire more comfort and safety. One of the best models for explaining human needs was developed by Abraham Maslow. Maslow's hierarchy of needs shows that once we acquire the basic necessities of food, shelter, we begin to move upwards, the self-actualization, and ultimately towards self-transcendence. Self-actualization involves personal growth and self-fulfillment, whereas transcendence moves beyond yourself towards assisting in actualization of others and the planet as a whole. Another way of looking at this is you would begin to move up the spiritual scale of evolution. We begin by satisfying our ego-based needs and ultimately move beyond the ego into oneness. That is, we recognize that the intimate connection between ourselves and everything else in our surrounding. Ultimately, we surrender the concept of a separate self, and we realize our true nature and attain universal consciousness. Emotionally, we move from fear into love, from survival to scarcity into gratitude and abundance, from living in the future to being in the now. While Maslow's scale is shown to be hierarchical, all of the needs are equally valid. Therefore, we should not judge any of the stages of spiritual evolution to be more or less superior. What is required is clear awareness and acceptance of where you are so that you can move up to the next level. Our emotional guidance system is the best tool to tell us if we are moving up spiritual scale of evolution. For example, every time we move from a state of fear into acceptance, we feel more freedom and expansion. In the same way, as we move up from the ego-based needs into universal oneness, we experience a positive emotion, such as love, peace, and harmony. Every time we move up the spiritual scale, our vibrational frequency increases, attracting more and more love and more peace and more happiness. This creates an upward spiral towards self-transcendence. Chapter 6. Science of Manifestation and Consciousness. To get back to our topic on the science of manifestation and consciousness, I feel that they're very connected and yet hardly mentioned in any of the law of attraction discussions. We talk about visualizing, materializing, vibrating the frequency of what you want to create and moving up the emotional scale. But having spent quite a few years with Abraham Hicks' teachings, I have seen how critical this all is. At the same time, non-dual teachers were kept asking me, who is doing the manifestation? Who are you in the first place? This led me to the exploration of who am I? That age-old profound question. I'm still on a journey, but so far what I realized is that in simple terms, the fundamental question is, does life create consciousness, or does consciousness create all life? Now, having read dozens of books and listened to many lectures from philosophers and scientists and spiritual teachers on this topic, I see how there are two camps. One that say consciousness simply emerges when the complexity of the organism reaches a certain threshold. The more complex the organism is, the higher level of consciousness. Example, human beings. Philosophers such as Daniel Dennett Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, all describe this view. On the other hand, there's another camp, and they subscribe to a view that consciousness creates all living and non-living matter. The non-dual teaching goes even further to say that it does not create because there is no separation between consciousness and anything else. Consciousness is all there is. All the rest are simply different manifestations of consciousness. So, the point, as many philosophers pointed out, the unified quantum field or the zero-point field is the source of everything and is everything. Some prefer to see it as conscious supreme being that's created all, but does not interfere in order to allow each creation their own free will. A kind of more liberal version of the Judeo-Christian personal God that judges and punishes. This impersonal supreme being is within all of us. My guess is that many of the members of creators subscribe to this point of view. The agnostics and atheists such as Richard Dawkins strongly reject the idea that there is any such thing as supernatural being existing at all. Their main argument is there is simply not enough evidence for it to be provided to science. Evolution explains where we came from through natural selection, and all the rest is just simply does not fit within the scientific paradigm. The only two remaining questions, they say, is that we need to address where the origins of life came from and what occurred before the so-called Big Bang. But even that, they claim, will be eventually explained through science. Well, the debate continues. And finally, the conclusion. The science of manifestation is consciously evolving. As new evidence appear in the scientific and spiritual discoveries, we need to adjust and encompass the new wisdom into our daily lives. One thing for certain, manifestation involves integration of the internal vibration with external action. It is the combination of the two, combined with alignment with the higher self and your true purpose, that produces a successful result. Thank you so much for listening to me. If you enjoyed this, please head over to vitaligimin.com and I would love to hear your comments. To your success in manifesting your true heart's desires.